Okay, so you want to own a towing company. Buy the truck, answer the calls, pull people out of ditches. Here's the strange part. The tow is almost never where the money is. The real profit in this industry is made after your customer's car is already on your lot, sitting still, doing absolutely nothing, and the meter is running whether they know it or not. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how towing companies actually make money, why the hookup fee you see on the bill is basically a decoy, what a police contract is really worth to the person who holds it, and why an industry generating $11.8 billion a year is also one where most operators are barely breaking even. There are roughly 35,000 towing companies in the United States. That number sounds like a crowded market. What it actually means is that the industry is almost entirely made up of very small operators. One truck, maybe two, usually owner-operated, usually working 24 hours because a breakdown doesn't care what time it is. According to IBISWorld, less than 1% of those 35,000 companies qualify as major players. The other 99% are competing for the same municipal contracts, the same AAA dispatch calls, the same late-night emergencies, with essentially the same equipment and no pricing power. Getting in is not complicated. A used flatbed tow truck runs between $30,000 and $80,000. A new one costs $80,000 to $180,000. Add your commercial driver's license, your state towing permit, your business license, and you are technically open. But here's what nobody tells you before you write that first check. Before you complete a single tow, that truck is already costing you between $6,000 and $10,000 per month in fixed expenses, insurance, fuel, maintenance, loan payments, and yard rent if you need a lot to store impounded vehicles. At 3 to 5 tows per day, which is a realistic daily volume for a single truck operator, every call you take is first paying down that fixed monthly cost before a single dollar touches your pocket. The math only works if the truck is moving constantly, and the truck is not always moving. Now we get to the question that actually matters. Where does the money come from? Most people picture the hookup fee, the $75 to $125 charge that shows up on the bill when your car gets towed. That's the visible number. It's not the profitable one. Towing companies with real margins have figured out that the tow itself is essentially the cost of customer acquisition. What generates the return is everything that happens after the vehicle is on your lot. Storage fees are the engine. In most states, towing companies charge $35 to $75 per day for vehicle storage. In Los Angeles, the daily rate runs $60. In San Jose, 2 weeks of storage fees adds $1,225 to the cost of a single tow. And here's the structural advantage that makes this more reliable than almost any other small business in America. You don't need the customer to cooperate. Once a vehicle is legally impounded, the fees accrue automatically, every day, whether the owner shows up or not. A Los Angeles grand jury report found that 32% of city-towed cars stayed on the lot for at least a week. That's 32% of your volume generating compounding daily revenue, while the truck is out making more money on the next job. The second revenue engine is the police contract. A municipal towing contract is an agreement between a towing company and a local government that gives you the exclusive or rotational right to respond when police call for a tow. These contracts are worth far more than the per-tow rate suggests. A police contract delivers consistent, dispatched volume. You don't spend money advertising for those calls, you don't compete on price for those calls, and every car that comes in on a police order goes directly to your yard, where storage fees begin immediately. The third revenue stream most people miss is roadside assistance subcontracting. AAA alone has 64 million members in North America. When one of them calls for a tow, AAA doesn't send its own trucks. It dispatches through a network of contracted local operators. That volume is predictable, it's digital dispatch, and it comes in regardless of your local marketing spend. Step back for a second. The economics here don't add up the way you'd expect. The towing industry in the United States is generating $11.8 billion in annual revenue as of 2026, according to IBISWorld. The demand is as close to recession-proof as any service business gets. Cars break down in every economic cycle. Parking violations don't pause during recessions. Accidents happen in good years and bad years equally. And yet the industry's net profit margin sits at just 9 to 10% across the sector, with competitive urban markets often running 10 to 15% at best, and individual operators frequently below that. Why does an essential, government-backed, legally protected service with captive demand and compounding storage revenue produce margins that would embarrass a decent restaurant? Because the cost structure is brutal in ways that aren't obvious from the outside. Insurance is the single largest hidden cost. Tow truck insurance is not like commercial auto insurance. You're covering liability for every vehicle your truck physically contacts. On-hook coverage, which protects the customer's vehicle while it's being towed. Garage keepers coverage for vehicles stored in your lot. And general liability for your drivers, your yard, your equipment. A single truck operator can pay $12,000 to $18,000 per year in insurance premiums before accounting for anything else. A fleet of 10 trucks is looking at $100,000 to $180,000 annually. One incident, a damaged vehicle, a driver accident, a liability claim, can wipe out months of operating profit. The second hidden cost is fuel. Tow trucks are not fuel-efficient machines. A heavy-duty wrecker averages 6 to 8 miles per gallon. Stop-and-go driving in urban markets drops that further. When diesel prices spike, there is no lever to pull. The job still has to get done. The customer doesn't pay a fuel surcharge on an emergency dispatch. The third cost is equipment degradation. A flatbed tow truck has a useful life of roughly 5 to 8 years under daily commercial use. The drivetrain, the hydraulics, the winch system, all of it wears under the load profile of constant towing. Operators who don't set aside a replacement reserve find themselves with a down truck at the worst possible moment, which in this business is always the middle of the night during peak demand. Here's the part of this industry most business breakdowns skip entirely. The towing business has a documented corruption problem, and it runs directly through the municipal contract system. In Detroit, a federal investigation called Operation Northern Hook resulted in the conviction of a former city council member and a former police lieutenant for accepting bribes from towing companies in exchange for favorable contract access. The lieutenant was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. The council member received 2 years. Both were paid to direct city towing business to specific operators. This wasn't an isolated incident. It is the logical outcome of a market structure where access to a police contract is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual revenue, and the gatekeepers of that access have decision-making power with limited oversight. The Los Angeles market tells a similar story from the customer's side. A CalMatters investigation found that a single LA towing operator, Bruffy's Delray Tow, transferred more than $1.1 million in excess auction fees to the California DMV between 2016 and 2024. Money from vehicle lien sales where the auction proceeds exceeded the owner's debt. That money is legally owed back to the vehicle owners. Most of them never knew it existed. The industry's relationship with its customers is structurally adversarial in a way that almost no other service business can match. When your car is towed, you did not choose the towing company. You cannot negotiate the rate. You cannot take your vehicle to a competitor. You pay what the operator charges on the operator's timeline, or your fees keep accruing. That structure produces margins for the savvy operator and a predatory reputation for the entire industry. Time to pull it together and answer the actual question. How much money do you make if you do this right? 2 scenarios, real numbers. Scenario 1, single truck owner-operator. Startup cost, $100,000 to $150,000 all in. Annual revenue at full utilization, $150,000 to $250,000. After insurance, fuel, maintenance, loan payments, and licensing, owner income lands between $50,000 and $85,000 per year in a good market with consistent volume. Not a path to wealth. A replacement for a salary, with the liability of business ownership layered on top. The break-even point on your initial investment is typically 27 to 36 months if everything goes correctly. Scenario 2, a fleet operation with a municipal contract. 10 trucks, a staffed yard, rotational police dispatch, and AAA subcontracting volume. Annual revenue runs $1.5 million to $4 million, depending on market size and contract scope. Owner income scales to $85,000 to $270,000 annually, once the operation reaches stability, which typically takes 3 years of building contract relationships and fleet utilization. The operators who build real wealth in this industry are not the ones who tow more cars. They are the ones who control the lot. Storage is the margin. The tow is just the acquisition cost. If you're going to be in this business, the truck is the least important asset you own. The address of your impound yard and the contracts that send cars there are worth everything. So if you decide to buy a towing company, remember the one rule that defines this industry. You're not in the towing business. You're in the storage business. The truck just gets the inventory there.